Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we find the perfect house for sale in Plano, Texas. We're going to go into the Plano geography, essentially where it's at on the map, and also some considerations if you're looking to move to Plano. We're going to start looking at properties within Plano, and I'm going to give you some helpful tips that are going to help you identify that perfect house a lot faster. So we're going to look at some things like property taxes. That's going to be very important, especially here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We're going to be looking at prices. We're going to be looking at HOAs. We're going to be covering a lot of different things. We're going to do a really good deep dive on essentially evaluating a property. That's a huge thing that comes up whenever you're looking for a home, because it can be overwhelming. It can be frustrating with not necessarily knowing what to look for, if this is the right house. It's not. Essentially, we're helping with that buyer's remorse. And then we're going to go through various loan scenarios that are going to help you identify what type of loan is right for you, because not all loans are the same. There's a few distinct differences that we need to be aware of if we're going to make the most appropriate real estate decision for ourselves. So with that being said, let's get going. And now would be a really good time for me to confirm that my microphone is on, because that has happened before. All right, there we go. All right, so if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And as always, a like is going to go a long way. It's going to help expand the reach of this particular live stream and this channel, which would be huge for us and the surrounding community. With that being said, let's get right into it. Let's find that perfect house in Plano, Texas. We're going to start off in an online portal. So we're going to go to my website, jaimeresendiz.exprealty.com. This will be linked down below. Now, if you want direct access to the MLS, I suggest starting here. Now, if you want to use the online portals that you have through Trulia, through Zillow, through Realtor.com, through Redfin, by all means, use whatever you feel most comfortable with. But you're, of course, always welcome to use my website, which is the one that we're going to use today. So right now, we're going to go only to Plano, and we're going to see that there's about 782 properties available for sale at an average price point of $674. Now this includes everything. This includes condos. This includes commercial. This includes everything under the sun. So we're going to take out those, the multifamily, the land, townhouses, leases, and farm and ranch, which there's not any in Plano. So we're going to leave only single family residences. And that's the only thing we're going to look at, because we need to identify a few key things for our home buying journey. Again, the goal here is to find that perfect house. So I'm going to give you some helpful pointers, some helpful tips that are going to help you identify the area that you want to live in a little bit faster, so we can avoid that dreaded buyer's remorse. Because keep in mind, we're spending a lot of money in our Plano home, so we want to feel comfortable that we're making the right decision. So right now, at the time of this recording, there's about 479 properties for sale in Plano right now that are single family. So we excluded all the other searches that we were talking about. And the lowest price home in the market right now is $280,000. Now, again, this is Plano. This is the one we're talking about. So whenever you're looking for a home, there's three things that I like to look at. One is, well, let me rephrase that. Whenever you're looking for a place to live, like an area, not necessarily just the home, we're looking at what is our commute going to look like. Because oftentimes, if you're moving, especially to a new location, you might not necessarily know what the commute is going to look like day in and day out. Now, if you work from home, well, going from the bedroom to the office might not be a big deal, right? So going from one room to another, it's not as big of a deal. And I can say that from personal experience, because it's very, very, very convenient. Now, if you are working in an office location or essentially you have to commute for work, that's something that you want to consider. How far away do you want to be day in and day out? Because sometimes a trip that could take you 15 minutes can quickly turn into 30, 45 minutes pretty quickly if there's an accident. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just raising that point up because it's something that we have bring up in our discovery calls with our clients all of the time, especially the ones that are relocating here. So the number one thing, again, where are we working? What does our commute need to look like? So Plano, typically we have so many families going into Plano, and a lot of them are commuting to Denton. A lot of them are commuting to McKinney for sure. Many of them are working in Plano. A ton of them are going to Dallas. And we have quite a few also going to Fort Worth, but not as much as you would think. So Plano is really what I call a destination city where a lot of folks actually aspire and want to build a life and build essentially buy a home in Plano because that's where they want to be. There's incredible schools. There's incredible, it's highly rated. It's just a phenomenal city through and through. So a lot of people want to live there with, and I don't blame them. It's a phenomenal place to be. Now, with that being said, again, number one thing is what do I want my commute to look like? That's going to be a big indicator of where we need to be searching, right? The second question that often comes up and you need to ask yourself is, what type of lifestyle do I want? Am I looking for a ton of parks? Am I looking for a lake life? Well, here in Plano, it's going to be a little bit challenging because the lakes are a little bit out here. Now, you can obviously commute, and that would be a 15 to 20 minute drive, but at the end of the day, what type of lifestyle are you looking for? Are you looking for a ton of green space? Are you looking for more land? Are you looking for X, Y, and Z? Are you, whatever it happens to be, what type of lifestyle are you looking for? Are you the type of person that will go out to a restaurant every single night? Or are you somebody that likes to go out and spend a ton of time at the clubs? Whatever your lifestyle happens to be, that's something you need to ask yourself about a particular city. Now, we have done several breakdowns on Plano itself, so I want to invite you to check out those other videos on this YouTube channel where we talk about all that, the nightlife, the cost of living, the real estate as well, the park situation, commute, everything that you could possibly want to know about Plano, we have in that video. So make sure that you check out the Everything You Need to Know About Plano series in our YouTube channel. So again, that's the second thing we need to ask ourselves. What does our commute, what type of lifestyle are we looking for? And then number 3, which is a big indicator where we start talking about real estate, is what's my budget? What's my price? What's the cost that I'm willing to undertake to live in this area, right? So number 1, commute. What does it need to look like? 2, my lifestyle. Does it fit what I want to, the type of lifestyle that I want to have? And 3, does it fit within my budget? What type of budget am I looking for? Which is a big part of what we're going to talk about today as we dive deep. Now, again, the lowest price home at the present moment is $280,000 in Plano. And as you can see, there's 3 properties available for sale right now in Plano that are under, did I say, what did I say? Did I say 3? I should have said 8. Hopefully I said 8, but there's 8 properties under $300,000 available for sale in Plano right now. Now, before we dive deep into looking at the real estate in Plano, I want to show you some more macro information real quick. So the population of Plano happens to be one of the top 5 cities population wise in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So Plano at this point is about to bridge 300,000 people in population. So it's a big city. It is a big city. So it's right behind, in population size, it's right behind Arlington. A lot of people don't realize that Plano is that massive. Median age. So the median age in Plano at the moment is about 39. Now, 39, you're starting to get to give you kind of perspective, the range on median ages in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Median ages vary in DFW from the low 30s to the 42s, 44s of the world. So this is kind of leaning more towards the older population, and we'll talk about what that means here and why we're even addressing it in this particular video. So the higher median age cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex are the South Lakes of the world, or the Highland Parks of the world, are those types of cities. So with Plano, you are looking at an older population. Now, what does that mean? It's generally, if you see an older population, a number here, you're generally going to see higher real estate prices. And with Plano, just as a heads up, that is the case. You're going to see higher real estate prices than a younger demographic. Why is that the case? Well, a lot of folks are living out here because they can afford it. A lot of folks that have been working in their career and have enough money to buy in this city, well, they're going to typically be older, right? So that also lets you know that there might not be as much of a priority in the activities for kids, like daycare and things of that nature. It might not be as big of a priority. these are, these are just very logical things to assume, things that actually things that actually come up when it comes to considerations to have whenever you're looking at median ages, right? So just some information I like to share out there before we get going. Now the rest of the information I'm not gonna worry about too much because there's a lot of statistics, a lot of numbers that come with it. So I just want to point out again the population, just so you know the size, and then also a little bit of the age, because that does kind of lend to what type of community, what type of environment, what type of businesses, restaurants, job opportunities are around the area. But what we are going to do before we head into the real estate part and breaking down the types of homes that we're looking at is we're going to look at a key number that I really like to go into, which is the home ownership rate. The home ownership rate says a lot about a city. So typically whenever you see a home ownership rate, well, let me just explain what the home ownership rate is. So you have a home ownership rate. The higher the number is, that means that there's more property owners that live in the properties in this particular city. So this means if this was an 80%, that means that 80% of the people that own in Plano actually live in their homes. So the lower the number, that's going to mean that there's more renters in that particular city. So here you have 57% of people that own in Plano are actually owner occupants. The other is rentals. So you can see that there's a good amount of rentals in Plano. Now Plano is one of those interesting cities, which again, it's a lot of people want to live in Plano. One of the biggest reasons is because of the incredible school system. But Plano is one of those interesting cities where you actually see a lower home ownership rate in the grand scheme of things when you compare it to other cities, and you still have higher real estate prices. So this is one of those unique cities that typically, to give you a comparison, like let's say Crowley, let's say Burleson, let's say the south part of the Dallas-Fort Worth that's a little bit further out of town, those types of cities actually have a higher home ownership rate than Plano, which is a little bit interesting, even though that they have lower real estate prices, which is again pretty interesting. Now I wanted to call that out. The second thing to call out is the average commute time, which is about 26 minutes, which is about on par with the DFW Metroplex. Again, Plano is a hotbed for people regardless of where they happen to be working. You're going to see people commute to everywhere basically. And although Plano is very, for my money, in terms of North DFW, is pretty centrally located, you're still looking at a good amount of commute from that city. All right, so let's hop on. Let's hop on to the real estate part of our conversation, because that's really where we're going to spend a lot of time, and I don't want to miss it. So let's check this out. Let's zoom in over here now that we know what we're doing. And we're going to start looking at some properties real quick. We're going to look for a few minutes of the properties that are available to us, and then we're going to select one that we're going to actually break down and analyze together. So as you can see here, you have the lowest price homes at the moment, which are going to be generally under, I would say about under 1,300, 1,400 square feet, which most of them happen to be. You're not going to see a ton of brick in this price point, especially in Plano. As you start seeing the prices go up, then you are going to see more brick in the list. So we're in the $350,000 mark at the moment. As you can see, you're starting to see some more established homes that are essentially ready to go, that you're going to be able to live in, move in, and not really have to focus on doing a ton of upgrades. Now, one of the milestones or one of the benchmarks that I like to look at whenever we're looking at whenever we're looking at cities is at what price point are investors putting their rehabs in? So at what price are they putting their rehabs out onto the market in? So this one I can tell that this one is a new rehab or a flip property. So it's 380, just to confirm, that is staged. So around $380,000 is when they put this property out on the market. I like to look at that number because it says a bit about the investment scene, but it also gives clients of ours a good sense on, hey, I may not be able to find a new home in Plano. The reality situation is you really won't necessarily be finding a ton of new construction in Plano, but you can find some rehabs. So these are flipped properties. These are properties that were purchased in as is conditions and took terrible pictures. But they flipped this property. So again, this is where the investment opportunity came into play. So they're putting the rehabbed homes back out onto the market at about $380,000, which again gives you a good idea of, if you were looking for like new properties, you're looking at $380,000 for those that are ready to go. Now you are going to find some new construction, not a ton, but you are going to find some new construction in Plano. One of the reasons that you're not going to find as much as you were in the past is because there's not as much land. Believe it or not, there's not as much land. So what we're looking for is new construction. This is new construction right here. We're looking for new constructions. So this is a new construction home at 570. But let's see if we can find some others. That's the second benchmark that I like to look at. Let's see. Okay, that way you can see it a little bit better. All right, we might not find new construction right now. Okay, I don't think we're gonna find some new construction that we can look at to get at that price point. I'm sorry, to get that second price point. All right, so hopefully you can see my mouse now. Hopefully I've regained control. So there's a little bit of a freeze, so my apologies on that. Let me know in the chat if this is working once again. So we're gonna keep going. Hopefully I don't have to redo this in again after the next several minutes that we spend together. So hopefully things are working. So let's keep going. All right, so for our purposes today, what we're going to do is we're going to actually look at one property and we're going to do a full breakdown on it. Now, this is totally our call. What property do we want to purchase? All of these look fantastic. We're going to purchase this one right here. This is the one that we're going to look at, and we're going to go into property tax information. We're going to look at different loans. We're going to look at different considerations when you're thinking about buying this property. Now, right out of the gate, let's look at some numbers. What's something important about us? Now, we can read the description, and of course the description is going to paint the most perfect, most eloquent, most pristine possible breakdown of the property. So let me move myself hopefully somewhere where I'm not taking up too much space. This will be fine. Can I make this larger? Okay. So you can read the property description and kind of give you an overview of what the home looks like, but we're going to look at some key information that would be valuable for us to know. So right now we see that the price is $720. It is there's been a price reduction on it. So right now it is at $720. It used to be a little bit more. We're going to see the following. We have the county is Collin County, so it's going to be important for us when we do property tax calculation. The price is $720 or $719, might as well be accurate with it. $719, 4 bedrooms, 4 full bath, and 0 half baths. Is this a 2-story? Awesome. So I like that. Hopefully we have 1 bedroom downstairs, which will have once there's 1 downstairs, that's going to mean that there's a full bath downstairs as well, because there's no half baths, which is good. Now, if there's a secondary, this would be too good. A desired secondary bedroom with full bath is also all right. So you have 2 bed. Okay, this is interesting. So upstairs, without seeing the property already, most likely there's going to be a entertainment area upstairs, and there's going to be 2 bedrooms upstairs. Okay, anyway, let's continue. About just shy of 3,500 square feet. We have 0.15 acres, which is a little bit larger than your stereotypical 0.125, so 1/8 of an acre, which is good. All right, so the rest of the information is pretty standard. Not going to worry too much about it. What I do want to look at is the association fees. So HOA fees, what do those look like? It's $660. That's going to be per year. So we're going to mind map that for a quick second, just so we remember. We have 2 garages. School district is Plano. Year built 2014, so this makes it a 10-year property. So at 10 years we have to think about what could potentially be coming up. For sure, the water heater is something that if that hasn't already been replaced, there might be something in the future that we need to look at with that water heater. So the water heater is something at right around this time. Right around this time is when you would see some replacements start to happen. Now, the our roofs are made for 20 to 30 years traditionally, but in North Texas, it's rare that they actually last that long because of all the hail that happens, which means that there's been some claims along the way. Now, that's something that we would find in the seller's disclosure to see when a roof was replaced. Also, something else that's pretty common here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is you're looking at a potential, not saying always, but more often than not, you're looking at potential foundation issues, which around 10 years, you will start seeing at that point some movement affect the foundation if there is movement. So again, just looking at some things that are going to happen within those first 10 years to give you an idea of what's happening. All right, so what else? The owner's occupying the property, so it was not rental. It was not a rental, which for me personally, I do prefer this, given that an owner-occupied property typically, not always, but typically is taken a little bit better taken care of. So county is Collin. So let's see, security, construction materials. We see that. We already know that. It's $660 for the association. HOA, of course, is mandatory. All right. Okay, the rest of the information is pretty standard. Nothing too crazy. Nothing really stands out. Now we're going to look at the property itself. So it's a slab foundation like most of the properties here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex are. There are a few pier and beams. That's more, those typically are going to be older homes, and you're going to see them in downtown areas more than suburbs, which Plano is a suburb. All right, so let's check this out. I do like brick. Red brick is pretty awesome in my opinion. And you have some stone out here. And I like the garage look. The garage look, anytime it looks a little bit different, I'm all about it. In fact, that's actually what drew my attention to this property altogether. The garage layout. The maintenance on it, so landscaping and you know, especially with such a hot summer right now, it's been pretty well maintained. It's not over the top. You would typically see flowers and things of that nature, but with this heat, I mean, it would takes a considerable amount of work to do that. Now, why am I calling this out? I'm calling this out because whenever you're looking for a property, as you start seeing one property, 5 properties, 20 properties, you start picking up some cues, and one of the cues that you're going to pick up is that curb appeal gives you a big understanding of how that property was most likely taken care of. Now, with an appropriate listing agent that gives the homeowners advice, they would take care of the front, even if, you know, just to kind of at least pretend that they took care of the property. But regardless, you do want to look at the small things, the minor things, because that gives you an idea of how the bigger things were most likely taken care of. Now, I know we're assuming quite a bit, but you're looking at a property that's $719,000. You need as much intel as possible when you're ready to make that type of commitment, especially if you're looking at a property when you decide to buy it. Keep in mind, you're not spending more than 30 minutes in that property and then you're sending out offers. 30 minutes for a $720,000 investment. We spend way more time on the Amazon cart deciding, should I get these shoes or should I get that, right? So putting that into perspective. All right, so I like the flooring. So you can see the furniture is a little bit more on the older side. So there's something that I would consider. So the furniture is a little bit more established. So this probably lets me know that the homeowners are a little bit on the older side. You know, no judgment here, just giving you kind of some context clues to which you're assuming a lot. Again, you're picking up these clues along the way to kind of give you an idea of, you know, if, as an example, if there were no kids in the home, well, there's a different level. There's a different level of care that you would have. For those of you that are parents, you know what I'm talking about. You have hardwood floors, what it appears to look like. All right. Pretty cool kitchen. Stainless steel appliances. This, I don't know if this was that way or if this was added later. I feel like this was probably added later because of maybe it's the picture, but I feel like this probably was added later. But as far as the granite, that's how it was sold. As far as the appliances, those are all 2024 appliances. You have the backsplash over here. This is a gas range. So you're looking at a gas property as opposed to electric. All right. I do like the higher ceilings. You typically see that with second story homes where the living room has kind of like an opening up here, and at the top you're going to see some rails to look at from the second story to down to the first story. So this is the primary bedroom. You're going to have hardwood floors. You have his and her sink. You're going to have a tub, and you should also have a shower. Where's the shower? Is that back there, or is this it? Oh, maybe there's no standing shower. That's interesting. You have the second bedroom and the second full bath. This is a third full bath. And this is a fourth full bath. Good solid baths. Now you have what appears to be, what is that? The bedrooms must be over here on the left hand side, and that is, so, oh no, there's another bedroom, or is that a closet? Yeah, there appears to be like a closet, and this must be a landing area, same way as this is a landing area. So maybe like a little game room over there, or a study room over there. Yeah, this is a landing area, and then you have another room up here. This could be an entertainment. This was designed to be an entertainment room, entertainment like a theater room. You see the different lighting here, and up there you would have the projector. But it looks like it was being used as a bedroom. You know, a little workstation over here. Covered patio with some pretty unique stone flooring. I like it. I like it. You have the shades for when the sun goes down, or just whenever there's a summer heat. Okay, cool. Well, I like the property, so we're gonna make an offer on this property. We are going to make the calculations work for us. All right, so let's go into our loan clarity calculator. This is linked down below. So again, I wanted to just give you a visual, just kind of walk with you on the things that I look for even before I go into a home. So the next step for us would be going to this actual home and looking at the property, seeing, really validating what we saw in pictures, get a little bit more clarity on what we saw in those pictures, and see if ultimately we want to make an offer. So let's pretend that we went and saw the property, and we're pretty sold on the property. We are wanting to move to Plano, and we found that this is the property for us. What do we need to do now? Well, let's do a quick calculation on what this would look like from a pricing perspective. So the purchase price is $719,000. Now, property taxes. This is a starting point, but note that property taxes in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, well, Texas altogether, property taxes are relatively on the high end. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the exact property taxes in Plano right now. So what we're going to do is going to go to Plano, Texas property tax rate. We're going to go to the city website and find, hopefully, the information that we need. We have it. Good. Perfect. All right, so with property taxes, you would think that it would be just one number, and you would think that it's this one, and then you would be wrong. You would think, right? Unfortunately, that's not the way that property taxes work. There's going to be up to 5 potential tax rates that you need to look at, and that you're going to add together to get the true property tax rate. So the first one is going to be the city tax, which is what you see right there. The second is going to be the county tax. So the county, in this case, we are in Collin County, and this is what we're seeing right here. The third is the ISD, so the Independent School District. What school district does the property belong to? In this case, it's Plano ISD, which again is very, very, very popular. A lot of people want to be in Plano ISD, so it makes sense. So that's the third. So those three, the city, the county, and the ISD, property tax rates across the board in every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, you're going to find those numbers, or you need to find those numbers. The city won't always make it this clear. So those are 3 numbers that you need to consider. Now, there's 2 additional numbers that can pop up, and that is a higher education tax, which is what you're seeing right here with Collin. So think of like community colleges, with Collin County Community Colleges. And the second one that we don't see here that often does show up is a hospital network tax. So as an example, if we were in Dallas, well, the Parkland Hospital Network would show up, and you would be paying taxes on that as well. So in this particular case, we have 4 of the 5 numbers, which if they don't show it, given that they've done a pretty good job of displaying the numbers here, it means that you're probably not paying a hospital network tax, so you're in a good spot. So all we have to do is add these 4 numbers and see what our property tax rate actually is. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out our calculator and we're going to put 0.4176 plus 0.0812 plus 0.1493 plus 1.0779, and you have a 1.76 property tax rate. This is among the lowest. Let me say that again. Among the lowest property tax rates in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Among the lowest. Among the highest would be about 3%. So I know with the real estate prices the way that they are, you may be thinking, well, yeah, that's saying a lot. But at the end of the day, truly, this is actually one of the lowest in the in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So it's no wonder that Plano has such a big appeal for a lot of people that want to live here. So what we're going to do is we're going to, I don't think I can get any closer really. Okay. I'm going to be cheating it just slightly. It's instead of 1.72, I'm going to put 1.75 because our tool here that is linked down below for you to get, this is as close as I can get to it. So we're going to leave it at that. Now with the home insurance, what we're going to do is this is an estimate. We're taking the estimated premium of what a home insurer would charge us for a property of this value. And you're on average, and a good estimate would be about $446 a month as a monthly premium for home insurance. The HOA, we saw that it was $660. Now with this tool, again, the moment that I move it over here, it's going to overshoot it quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to worry about the HOA. I'm going to add that in later, so we have an understanding of what we would be paying in HOA. So again, I can add it. It's going to be overshooting it by $1,000. So I'd much rather just add it in later than use that particular field. All right, so now let's go into different loan options of purchasing this property. So we're going to do conventional at 5% down, FHA at 5% down, conventional at 20% down. These are the three scenarios that we're going to give ourselves whenever we're purchasing this property. Which means that we got to move this little percentage bar up. Here we're also going to be doing 5%. Oops. And here we're going to do 20% to give you a different feel for the type of loan that you could have. Now, going into some major differences between a conventional and FHA loan. With a conventional loan, the minimum down payment that you have access to, assuming that you're a first-time home buyer, is 3%. That's the minimum down payment that you can actually put down. With an FHA loan, the minimum down payment would be 3.5%. So it would be a little bit higher. That would be an FHA. Now we're going to do 5% because we're making a few assumptions along the way, and 5% seems to be what's most common with our clients whenever they're purchasing. So that's what we're going to end up using for these calculations. Now, the second thing that I wanted to draw to your attention is, since we're putting less than 20% down, which is what you're seeing over here to give you the dichotomy, since we're putting less than 20% down, we're paying what's called a mortgage insurance. We'll talk about that here shortly. But just know that we're going to be paying mortgage insurance. Now, the one thing that I wanted to share about that is with a conventional loan, your mortgage insurance eventually goes away. After a certain amount of years, it goes away once you reach 20% owner equity in that property. Meaning, as you make your payments and you become owner of over 20% of the property, that mortgage insurance goes away if you have a conventional loan. If you have an FHA loan, that does not go away. The mortgage insurance stays on that loan until you refinance, or until you pay off that loan, or you sell that house. So that is essentially the only ways that you would get rid of that mortgage insurance. It never goes away. But we'll talk about it here shortly. All right, so all loans are going to be 30-year loans for our example. And now what we're going to do is we're going to find what that interest rate happens to be right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to Google. But what is the, there we go. What is the interest rate for buying a home? And I like to now go to bank rate, which when I click on bank rate, you're going to see at the bottom what the average is right now. So as of Saturday, which is the time of this recording, current interest rates in Texas are 6.43% for a 30-year fixed. So we're going to take that. And by the time you're watching this video, it could be higher. It could be lower. You're going to need to do that breakdown as well. So all you have to do is go to Google and find this rate. Now, this is an estimate, of course. This is an average, of course. So for you, it could be lower. It could be higher. It just depends on your credit score. It depends on the loan. Depends on the time of the year. Depends on what the interest rates are doing. Hopefully, by the time you're watching this video, this is in the 5s. This is in the 4s. This is in the 3s. As opposed to the 7s, the 8s, or the 9s. Hopefully, right? So we have our interest rates that we are realistically, we can realistically have. Points. What are points? Points are essentially you buying down the interest rate. So you could pay what's called a point to reduce this interest rate by a certain amount. So whenever you purchase a point has some pretty simple math. 1% of the loan value, so essentially what you take out in the loan, is what it's going to cost you to buy down 1 point. So as an example, if we borrow $700,000, you're looking at 1% of that, which is $7,000, which is going to be the cost to buy down a point. Now, what is a point? Does that mean full percentage point? Heck no. I wish it did. But here, it's going to be about 0.25 to 0.4%, I would estimate. So here, you're going to be in the lower 6 point something. So I would guess, just straight up guess, educated guess is a better way of saying it. Your interest rate would probably be 6.2-ish. Give or take. So you would be buying down the interest rate, which is really at the end of the day, you're prepaying interest is what you're doing when you're buying down points. There's a break-even point. So we can talk about the break-even point here shortly, but well, actually we won't because we got a lot of other things to cover. If you want to learn more about what the break-even point, at what point you should probably stop buying points, let me know in the comment section. I'll explain it in the comments. I think that might be easiest for everybody. Lender fees. Lender fees vary. I'm going to put $0 for now, just so we have a blank slate to work with. Now, the reason that we include the lender fees is so you can get a true cost, a true feel of what that would actually end up being for you. And so you could also compare lenders against each other. That's going to be a good comparison. So you can see what Chase is offering, what Cross Country is offering you, what Wells Fargo mortgage would offer you. You compare apples to apples. Now, we talked about mortgage insurance. That's what MI stands for. We talked about mortgage insurance a couple of seconds ago. Because we didn't put 20% down when we purchased or we made these loans, provided these scenarios, since we did not put 20% down, we're paying what's called mortgage insurance. And again, with conventional, eventually that goes away. I'll show you that break-even point in a couple of minutes. With FHA, that never goes away. So our monthly mortgage insurance would be about $341. Now, what is mortgage insurance? The lender is putting additional insurance on you in the event that you default. So in addition to them being able to take the property back, they have also put this insurance on you. So it means that they're also getting some additional money from you a little bit quicker. So not only are they benefiting from the interest rate, but they're also benefiting from an additional fee, an additional expense, additional percentage, an additional cost, whatever you want to call it, an additional insurance that they're going to get paid back a little bit quicker. So they're accelerating they're mitigating their exposure and accelerating their cash flow, if you will. So that's what a mortgage insurance is. And I'll show you what that number ultimately translates to. Now, if you are of the mindset that you want to get rid of your mortgage payments as quickly as possible and want to start adding extra payments, you can absolutely budget that in this particular field. If you want to do it monthly, if you want to do a lump sum, this calculator, this tool will do that for you. So make sure that you add that here. We're not going to do that to complicate the issue in our breakdown today, but you are able to do that. Now, conventional 20% is, when you compare the three loans, just to be candid with you, about 99% of the time, conventional 20% down is going to win, especially when you compare it against a 5% down, 5% down, conventional and FHA. essentially 100% of the time. Conventional is going to win. But what we like to show you here is how much you would save if you go down that conventional route. Now, a conventional route of 20% down. Now, I can already hear the comments of, well, yeah, of course, who wouldn't want to say that? That would be fantastic. I would do 30% if I could. But if I did 20% down to avoid PMI, that would cost so much money. And here's my response to that. You're right. It would cost a significant amount of money. You're looking at over $100,000 more in down payment. Not all of us are in that position to do that. And I completely empathize. I completely agree with you. We're just doing the math here. If you're in a position to do so, if you're in a position to put 20% down and you're willing to do it where it makes sense for you financially, meaning if you have nowhere else to park this $100,000 where it would yield you even more of a return, then you might want to consider putting that amount of money down. Now, also, it depends on how much you're financing yourself for. So here, again, a conventional 20% down will save you $87,000 when you compare it to these loans. So you see how much it would cost you for after 10 years. You would save, after 10 years, you would save $87,000. For the full maturity of that loan, you would save $177,000. So you see what the actual cost of that loan would be in the long run when you compare it to the other loans that you have. So if you would have financed yourself for 30 years with an FHA of 5% down, it would have cost you $953,000. Right? That is huge. That is huge, correct? Now that is only interest. That's not principal. That is the cost. That's how much your loan costs you. So when you put it like that, it's eye-opening, right? Now I'm going to go back to 10% just to give you the different breakdowns. Now the only thing I want to show you here before we get into the monthly, what the monthly mortgage payment is I want to show you this. So with an FHA loan, you're going to be paying what's called a finance mortgage insurance. This is 1.75% of the loan. So this is a fee, this is a cost, this is an expense that you're going to be paying, come heck or high water, that does not exist with a conventional loan. On top of that, you're going to be paying what's called mortgage insurance, which we talked about a couple of minutes ago. This is the same thing that you would be paying in a conventional loan. Now, with that being said, let's continue. One second. I knew I had something wrong. So here's how I knew I had something wrong. And I'm glad this came up. And I'm not just saying that because I made a mistake. So this number right here, I just casually, I never look over here, but until the final reveal. But I noticed that there was a monthly mortgage insurance, and I thought, well, there's something wrong there because this is a conventional loan. So I went back here and I saw that, oh, okay, well, I made a mistake. So let's see if this changes this number at ENI, 87,000. I got to change it to a conventional loan. And I got to go back to 20%. Look how quickly you can fix this. You're saving even more. How beautiful. You're saving even more. That's good. That's good. Anyway, conventional 20%. Now we changed it to the appropriate category, the type of loan, as opposed to USDA loan. There, that makes sense. Dear Lord, that makes so much more sense. You see that there's $0 in that monthly mortgage insurance. Why? Well, because you put 20% down. So again, I'm glad we caught that. Well, I'm not glad that I made the mistake, but I am glad that we caught that. With that being said, monthly mortgage insurance, again, if you after 10 years, you would have paid $38,000. After 10 years, you would have been paying $31,000 plus this in terms of additional insurances because you didn't put 20% down. And I recognize if you're not able to, I recognize that. That's totally okay. So after 30 years, what would that look like? You would have paid $39,000 in mortgage insurance after 30 years, which I'll show you the break-even point at what point you stop paying mortgage insurance because you got 20% down or 20% equity in that property. But over the life of this loan, you paid $78,000 in additional insurance. So that's a big number, but so is this. This is the amount of interest that you paid on that loan. Again, this is just the loan. This is not the principal. This is just the loan. This is the interest that you paid on that loan. So let's go back to 10 years. Actually, no, let's go back to 1 year because I got to show you the next breakdown. Monthly payment. The monthly payment, year one, month one, what's that cost gonna be? $61.23 if you put 5% down on this property of $719,000. FHA, you'd be looking at $61.39, so just slightly more, and I mean ever so slightly more. Under a conventional loan, if you would have put 20% down, you're paying $1,000 less per month, which makes sense given that you put over $100,000 into this property. Remember, this is what you paid down, which is over $100,000 more than what you did with these two other scenarios. Now, if you break this down from a principal, interest, tax, homeowners insurance, mortgage insurance, and HOA perspective, this is what it ultimately comes out to. You have the principal. Again, this is year one, month one, just giving you a breakdown of what the monthly payment would be. The principal is, you're paying very little in principal at the very beginning. You're paying a heck of a lot more in interest at the very beginning. But as you're making payments, your principal, like the small amount that you're paying towards the principal, the actual loan that you got, it's going to continue to increase, and the amount of interest that you're paying per month is going to decrease. And you're going to see that in the amortization table down here, where at the very beginning you're paying very little towards principal and a ton towards interest, and your ending balance moves down by like a trickle. It moves down so slow. But as you continue going, again, this is just how it works, folks. As you continue making payments, when you get to year 10, you're paying this towards principal, this towards interest. When you get to however many years this is, you're paying all of this towards principal and then that towards interest. You're paying the same amount towards principal and interest. Let me rephrase that. When you add them together, but at the end of the day, that's how it breaks down. Anyway, so that's the principal and interest. Taxes are going to be a real thing. So taxes here, with the property tax rate that we have about 7 something percent, you're looking at taxes being $1,000 in taxes for this property per month. Homeowners insurance, the estimated premium on your homeowners insurance policy is $445 or $446. Your mortgage insurance, again, for the beginning, at the beginning of your loan, you're paying mortgage insurance on both the conventional 5% or the FHA 5%. You're not paying anything under a conventional 20% because you put 20% down. You avoided mortgage insurance. Now, HOA, we did not add it here. One, because the tool that we have here would have wildly overshot it, and I didn't want to do that. Our homeowners association is actually $660 per year, so we can do that manually. And also keep in mind that the HOA is not part of the mortgage payment. The HOA fee is something that you pay at the beginning of the year in an invoice. It's not part of your mortgage payment every single month. So if your property if the homeowner's insurance is $660, that means that it's, I shouldn't do public math. What is that? $55. I know I'm wrong. $55 a month. Let's call it $55 a month, even if I'm wrong. That's what that would end up being. So this is roughly $61.50. Now, after year, let's call it 14, you see that in year 14, the mortgage insurance is no longer there. Why? Because you paid at least 20% down in that property. 20% owner equity stake in that property, which mortgage insurance goes away. But you also notice that with FHA, it still hasn't gone away. Why? Well, because it doesn't go away with FHA. Now, we're going to skip this equity part. I only like doing this just because it looks pretty cool. But it's not going to do much for your calculation. What I want to show you more is down here. So I'm going to go, actually, I'll just show you this breakdown, which will give you at what point the mortgage insurance falls off with your conventional 5% down. Remember, we didn't have MI, so mortgage insurance, with this conventional 20% because we put 20%. But with a conventional loan, we did have mortgage insurance, but it fell off after 10 years. And this is just based off of the math. This does not factor in the appreciation of the property. So with appreciation, the way that it has been going over the last 15, 20 years, you would have really been able to accelerate this mortgage insurance falling off by 5 years, like very conservatively. But again, this is just based off of the math. If you make your payments on time, not on time, if you just make your payments, period, your mortgage insurance would be falling off pretty quickly. Now, a calculation that a lot of folks really appreciate is having the difference between what would it look like if I bought a property versus renting a property. Having that breakdown is so important. And this is where I have to kind of get on, this is where I have to virtue signal a little bit. It's not virtue signaling if I call myself out, right? It's something where I kind of have to get on my real estate peers about, so other real estate professionals that essentially that make posts on social media that say, quit paying the landlord's mortgage, that are saying things like, why rent when you can buy, that say such blanket statements like that you're throwing your money away by renting, buy. I can understand kind of the angle that they're coming from, but in some situations, folks, it would make more sense for you to rent. It would make more sense for you to rent. And keep that in mind. I make money when you buy. I make money when you sell. I'm a real estate professional, real estate agent. My team, like, we sell a lot of real estate, and that's how I make my money. But I also am more in the business of sharing just this information, just so you can analyze it and see if this is a decision that is right for you. So with that being said, I want to preface this next calculation with that backdrop in mind. We're going to see what it actually would cost you to buy. And I mean, from the very beginning to the very end, we're not really leaving any material numbers out, so you can make that decision, versus how much it would cost you to rent. So you're going to see the differences. So we're going to factor all of that in and making some very clear assumptions. So we're going to say we buy this property. Again, we're buying this property right here for $719,000. That's what we're buying. And we're assuming that we're buying it today. And in 10 years, we're going to make some assumptions. Let's say, had our appreciation rate been, let's be conservative. If the home appreciates on average 3% a year, which is very reasonable. Now, our cost to sell, we're going to say it's 6%. So that's going to factor in getting it a little bit prepped up. It's going to factor in some title costs that you might need to pick up on the sell. It's going to factor in some real estate agent commissions. It's going to factor in everything, the cost to sell. We're just going to say 6%. You could make you could say 8%, you could say whatever you want to say, or you could say less. If you want to sell it yourself and you think that it's going to be zero expense to you, that would be incorrect. But if you want to make that assumption, go ahead. So let's just say it costs you, let's even undershoot. Let's say 5%. No, let's say more. That way you kind of are a little bit more conservative with it. Let's say it costs you 7% to sell your property. Tax increase per year. Let's also assume that your property taxes are going to go up on average 2%. Well, let's make that assumption. But let's also, let's increase it. Let's say it's going to be more than that. We're going to also for sure want to pay the additional homeowner's insurance, and that will also be increasing. So let's just, again, on average, it's going to increase 2.5% per year. These are assumptions. These are reasonable assumptions. These are not made up. Well, these are made up numbers, but these are not pie in the sky numbers. These are realistic, obtainable numbers. What would that look like after 10 years if we sold? Well, after us doing that, the property will have appreciated about $247,000. Keep in mind, the property that we bought for $719, after 10 years, it would have appreciated by $247,000. Now, it doesn't matter what type of loan you got. That's the property. It doesn't depend on how you financed it. That would be the appreciation that we're assuming. The cost to sell, same thing. It doesn't matter what type of loan you got to purchase that property. The cost to sell would be the same regardless if you got a conventional FHA or put 20% down conventional. The loan cost, this will depend on how you financed it. So if you did 5% down after 10 years, it would have cost you $447,000 in loan cost. That's the actual interest that you're paying. FHA, you would have paid a little bit more, $460,000 after 10 years. In a conventional, you would have paid significantly less, $344,000 in interest, the loan cost. That's what it costs for you to borrow. Property taxes, this is again why it's very important that we understand property taxes so we can make this calculation, given that if we're going to compare and make this comparison to us renting, which we don't pay property taxes with or on, well, these are costs that we have because we're homeowners. So that would be $141,000. This is what you're seeing here. Homeowners insurance, this is what it would cost you. Again, it doesn't matter what type of loan you got. It would be $60,000 roughly in homeowners insurance. HOA, your homeowners association, this is zero right now, but here what we're going to do is we're going to need to add, it was $660 per year. Let's assume it stays the same, which is they do increase from time to time. So but for our purposes today, just to have a clear math on it, let's just say it's $700 per year. At 10 years, that would be $7,000. So we can add $7,000 more to this because I did not add it to our little calculator over here because it would have overshot it by too much for my comfort. So I'm going to do this manual addition. And I'm trying to trace every dollar, every penny. So I'm not accused of, well, you're baking or you're cooking the books. So here the cost for me to live for 10 years in this property would have been about $476,000, assuming that I add the HOA. And my cost, if I would have bought it with an FHA, it would have cost me about $488,000 to live in this property. And then here it would have cost me about 400 and what's that? It's simple math. 473. No, 470. Yeah, $473,000 is what it would have cost me to live in this property. Now, for comparison, a rental payment. What would my rent have been in a property of this size? Now, we can make that calculation if we want. We can make that calculation all day long. Actually, we're not going to have time to get into that. Let's just assume we're paying $4,000. Let's just make that assumption. Let's just assume we're paying $4,000 for rent. To rent this property in this size, of this size. So for comparison, a rental payment of $4,000 per month with an annual increase of 3% per year would cost $550,000. Now, if we were to find a home that we could rent for $3,000 that's similar size, that would have cost us $412,000. So again, it has to do more with the size of the property and try and compare apples to apples, because that's what ultimately what you're renting out or you're getting as a rental. So this gives you that comparison of what it would have actually cost you to rent versus buying. Now again, this is based off of a comparison, a like-to-like comparison, which I should probably be better prepared next time so we can start pulling some like properties. But I do have an appointment coming up, so I do have to cut it short. With that being said, hopefully this provides some value on how to appropriately check out homes, find homes in Plano, and ultimately feel much more prepared to make your next real estate decision, whether you're buying or selling. Hope this helped you in some way as we looked at the homes in Plano. So we looked at the different type of real estate. We looked at how to analyze the properties from the pictures, from the numbers that are important, that fluctuate from city to city. We looked at property taxes. We looked at different loan scenarios, different loan types that are going to be used to finance your next home purchase. So hopefully this equips you in some way that gives you that additional comfort that what your next step is the correct step for yourself and your family. If there's anything that we can do, if you're looking to buy or sell in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, please feel free to reach out. Outside of that, see you on the next one. Bye.